Hola amigos, bien o no, y saludos desde Inglaterra. Hoy el tema es terminar con la práctica en tu mente y hablar las palabras. Ese es el tema de hoy. So, hello again from England. Forgive me. Quick sip of the tea before we start the video today. So, the theme of the day really is to get out of our head, finish with the mental practice, if you like, of when we're reading and practicing kind of phrases we might need to use. There is that point where we have to actually speak the words, take the words off of the page and bring them to life. And this can be quite daunting because perhaps you're not familiar with how you sound. And that can be a shock. So how do we take kind of the vocabulary we've been learning, those kind of phrases we've been writing down, and we're sure that these will be useful for us? How do we make that transition from reading it, being happy we understand it, yes, I know that's correct, I can see the how that should be written out. How do we take it from that to us being able to literally bring those words to life, to speak the words? How do we do it, even if that's quite a scary kind of jump to make? Well, ideally, if you're in the company of a native speaker of your new language, this should be an easier transition, because you just get to talk with them and they can encourage you, show you a good example of how to say those words and phrases, and with a bit of listen and repeat, you can follow along with them, and that should be your guide. If you're not able to do that, if you're not readily in the company of native speakers, how can we do that? How can we transition from our practice, which we're doing more or less on our own in the sense that we've written it down, that's what we need to say. How do we practice, at least at the beginning, so we know our voice, so we're happy with the way we sound? Well, reading aloud is clearly the first thing we have to try. So practice reading your text aloud, record it, so you get some kind of feedback for yourself in the sense of, that's what I sound like. Get over the shock. Once you're past that, the other way to do it, really, is to pick a video in the language that you're studying, listen to some of the vocabulary and the sentences, the dialogue that's said in that conversation. If necessary, write it down. Take a short piece, just a sentence. Be happy that you have the transcript. Listen again to what the first person said. Stop the video. Read it yourself. And the idea is to see if you can mimic, generally, the sound pattern of the person you've heard saying the dialogue. Now you can read this in a way which is kind of like mirroring what they say, or shadowing what they say more correctly. So as they're speaking, you can follow along with them, perhaps in a slightly more of a quiet voice, just talking to yourself as you're hearing them speak, to get a sense of when are they pausing, what words are they stressing. But in the end, what you're looking at doing is hearing their line of dialogue. Can you repeat it so it sounds nearly the same as what you hear? And can you do that consistently? If you get to that level where you can hear what was said and repeat it so it sounds to you almost like what you heard, then you're getting much closer to that native speaker intonation, which is what we want. Don't forget, the accent is not important, but the intonation is. So try and practice that. But the most important thing, even though we're preparing a lot of our dialogues and our vocabulary and the phrases we do need to write them down so we know what we're going to say, and that parallel translation again will help so we understand why that phrasing expresses that particular idea. But there is a point where we have to take it off the page and put it into practice and do some reading and hear ourselves in the new language and be critical. Be aware that perhaps what you say is not what you expected, and it's like, oh, really? Let me see if I can give you an example. So one of the things I'm trying to practice is different ways to hopefully communicate better in that kind of negotiation type scenario. So I have some sentences I need to practice. Déjame ver si entiendo. Lo que mencionas es que... Let me see if I understand. What you're mentioning is that. Déjame ver si entiendo. Lo que mencionas es que... Déjame ver si entiendo. Lo que mencionas es que... So again, I practice it multiple times. I'm trying to get a sense of how that sounds. Are there words I find hard to say? And when I listen to that back, I can look at it and go, oh no, Graham, that doesn't look particularly fluid, or you're saying that too fast, or you're not saying that very clearly. This is why the reading aloud is a good practice, because it gets you more conscious of how you sound. How is your voice? Do you have a very quiet voice? Or are you speaking too fast and too... Yeah, there are different types. You have to be critical. You may not hear your voice yourself when you're speaking to others. You might not be conscious of that, how you sound. But particularly when we're trying this in our new language, this is a good chance for us to look at it carefully and go, okay, the way I sound isn't clear. I can't hear the words clearly. This is very important. You don't have to speak particularly quickly, but you should try and speak the words clearly. Have a think about it. That's the challenge. I agree this may often seem quite a frightening challenge, but that's it. We have to take the words, take them off the page, put them into practice, speak them so they become alive. So try some of those techniques, see if that'll help you. Read it to yourself to begin with, aloud, record it so you can hear it, understand what you sound like. Be critical, okay, could you do that better? Yeah. Practice shadowing, mirroring other dialogue you hear. As you hear it, see if you can repeat that line of dialogue. Listen to it again. Can you do it? See if you can get very close to that. So as you're hearing people speak, just practice mirroring back what they said. Try it. The more we speak out loud, the easier it becomes. And then eventually the idea is you should be able to pick up pretty well any book you have at hand in that language and have a good go at reading out paragraphs from that and feel fairly confident that what you're reading aloud is fairly clear and easy to understand. That's it for today. So, déjame saber en los comentarios, como siempre. I hope you find this one helpful. But for now, we'll say cheerio.